You don't really hate the work, you just hate that you didn't price it properly.
How much of winning a deal is the proposal itself?
The proposal is almost meaningless.
Christo is the Emmy-winning strategist who reshaped creative entrepreneurship
by turning brand positioning into an exact science.
He hands you the blueprint to charge what you're actually worth.
If it's Friday night at 6 p.m. and they call you, or are you joyous to pick up the phone? If you're joyous, it means you've charged enough. My goal is to be the most expensive bid.
Did that lead you to start adding a zero to every new project that came?
We came up with many creative ways to insert more money into the bid.
How big was that project, do you remember?
It was so profitable.
A talented creative is about to quit. What would you say to them? I have 3 logos here that you haven't seen before. Using these 3 logos, what can you see in a piece of design that most trained designers still can't?
I've seen all of these logos before, just not here together like this. Let's talk about the one that I can objectively speak about. The first one's the Nike swoosh logo. I think in terms of a pure symbol, it is beautiful. It's nearly perfect. It communicates the original intention, which is it just needs to look fast. This symbol is super iconic. And when we look at an icon like this, what we're trying to do is it recognizable? Is it different? Is it memorable? And the Nike logo, the swoosh logo, is so well designed that I can then draw it in the darkness with my eyes closed. Most logos you can't do that with. And the Nike logo, through multiple decades of marketing and exposure, they can remove the word Nike, and we just now associate the symbol with the word, which is like they've created their own visual language, which is beautiful. I'm not sure that I'm telling you anything that nobody else can see, but I'm trying to use that language there. And for a logo that has very pointed edges from tip to tail, the fact that there's this nice curve to it makes it not look like it's gonna kill you. So it's a good balance between linear and curvilinear elements that is really beautiful. The TED logo is what many people in the layperson would say it's just a typeface. But what people don't understand is that word marks like TED, in this case is an acronym for technology, entertainment, and design, is what I would consider a custom typeface or an alphabet, but with just 3 letters in it. So we have to take into consideration to counter the balance, the weight. And this combination of letter forms, the T is a very difficult thing to work with because it has a crossbar and a tall vertical stem, but it has a lot of empty space around it. And so you're always trying to fight, like, how do I balance it and get the kerning to be proper for this? I'm not sure it's 100% resolved. It is bold, it is graphic, and it's not taking too many risks. So most likely it will withstand the test of time. And what young and average designers don't understand is that the logo is not supposed to communicate what you do. It's to communicate a feeling and like a rough abstract idea. And the example I give to people is like a pizza logo is not supposed to look like a guy throwing a pizza in a brick oven, or a delivery service has like wheels on it. It's just about the idea. The classic example here is the Paul Rand, the UPS logo. And he designed it as a shield because people who deliver our packages should take care of them, protect them. And then he added this little element, and he asked his daughter at that time, what does this look like? And she said, Daddy, it looks like a present. He goes, I'm done. It's like, I don't know, I mean, you're a lot younger than me, but when I was growing up, one of the greatest joys of my childhood is like the mailman comes and delivers a package of something I saved up for. And it was such a joyous moment. Like I could not wait to tear that thing open. So those are feelings, those are ideas, but they're not to show you literally what happens. So this is why a lot of times people don't understand why just using a beautiful typeface, properly spaced, can be very powerful, because this allows the marketing and all the ideas that you're going to use over the years to have a life of their own and not be overpowered by your pizza spinning logo guy. And the last one I'll talk about is our logo. It's the Futur. So the Futur, there's stories and mythology around where the name came from. I won't get into that part. But the Futur is based on a typeface called Futura, and it's one of my favorite typefaces. It's bold. It kind of has a Swiss German feel to it, and so if you're looking for power, for something that is strong and shows a lot of strength, you would use the typeface Futura. We do make some small modifications to it. The crossbar of the T has been cut off just because we want a nice, clean, sharp edge, just to show people this is a unique thing that we've put together. And again, it's not supposed to be this crazy expression of what we do, an education company.
Beautiful. And when did you first realize you were seeing things that other good designers were missing?
I don't know if I've ever thought that, to be honest. I would describe myself as, like, I'm going to steal Seth Godin's words here. I notice things. I'm very particular. I have a healthy dose of OCD. And I would say I see things that most people don't see, but I wouldn't say most designers don't see. I think designers are obsessed about things like this.
Do you have to have a little OCD to be an amazing designer or to see design differently than others?
No, but I think some form of OCD is kind of championed within our field, our practice in traditional design. Because I remember somebody, I forget the person's name right now, but they were giving a presentation about typefaces. And they were saying, I drew this letter form 85,000 times. And the audience gasped, not in horror, but out of respect. Just because they're like, I couldn't resolve the way this terminates or connects. I'm like, yeah, I could see that. So they spent over a year designing a typeface. And they're already a master typeface designer, but they're like, I could not resolve this. And finally, I found this, and then it made sense. And it's like you wrote your masterpiece of music, but it just happens to be letter forms.
85,000 times?
I jest, but it's like the amount of sketches and the drawings and redrawings, and you can see the tissues and overlays, and you just see a ton of work product. So most of us just see the finished thing. We're like, yeah, pretty good. Anybody can do that. But when you really get into it, and then they talk about the kerning pairs and the amount of man hours or human hours spent in designing a typeface so that once you release it into the world, you don't create like a visual assault on people. It's like well considered.
Okay, tell me about the day you realized that you'd been charging too little, right? Walk me through the process when you understood your value.
I don't know if I've thought that I've charged too little. I've always questioned how much more can I charge.
Even when you were first getting started?
Yeah.
Really? What were you charging then?
$30 an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why I was charging that was because the flyer said, we'll pay you $30 an hour. And I remember I was in school. I wanted to make a little bit of money. And they have job postings on a bulletin board somewhere. You go and you pull the tab off. And it was from an Art Center alum. And I called and I sent him some work, and he goes, cool, you can get started. And I was designing bank brochures, a trifold bank brochure. And I just sent in the hours. I'm like, this is terrible. First of all, I don't think I went to school to design bank brochures. I could have done that without going to school. And I think my life is meant to be more than this. And so I would just go wherever, and somebody's like, what's your rate? I would just say a number. Like, okay. So then I'm like, okay, let me try again. I'll just keep saying it until they say no. And it took a long time before they would say no. Sometimes they'd be a little bit irritated that you would say a number, because like, didn't you just graduate school? I'm like, you have a problem with that? Like, no. Okay. So we would just move on. I'll share a story. I love to tell this story. I think I'm a year out of school. Yeah, probably not more than a year. I'm freelancing. And when I say freelancing, I'm kind of like this hybrid freelancer because I don't work in somebody's office. I send them an invoice and things like that. And it was at this point in which I was testing the theory about how much money can I charge, because it's just a game for me. Money is a construct. It's an imaginary thing that we all have social agreement on that is real, but it's not. And I was raising my rates every project with the same company, by the way. So at first it was like $300 a day. And I'm like, that doesn't feel right. Let's try 400, 450, 500, 600. And they just kept paying. So one day I tell them, yeah, you guys want to book me. I just need to let you know it's $800 a day. And at this point, the executive producer had enough with me. And she said, Chris, every time you just keep changing your rate. I'm like, I know. And she goes, this is too much. And it's annoying. I'm like, okay. Why don't you have a conversation with the creative director? I won't say his name. And if he has a problem with it, have him call me. He never called me. They just paid.
So you were charging too little to start, or you had.
I didn't look at it like that.
You didn't look at it like that, but you had the opportunity to charge a lot more, and you just kept raising the price until. And then when they had a problem with it, or when they said they had a problem, right? Did you raise it again after that, or did you keep it at 800?
Oh, they stopped working with me after a certain point in time.
But did you keep it going?
Of course, I've never stopped.
Really?
Yeah. Well, people don't know this, but to book an hour with me, it's $5,000. And they're like, an hour? I'm like, an hour. They're like, what do you do? Whatever I do. What outcomes do you promise? None. I promise you will be on a call with me for an hour. And people book me.
So it comes down to obviously valuing your time, because our time is infinite, but it comes down to keep raising the bar until someone maybe objects, which is probably hard for a lot of freelancers or creatives that are just getting started, because a lot of them don't like talking about money. They don't like asking for more money, I assume.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, when you say, when did you first realize that you've charged too little? It was not about a first time. Every time I start to feel pain from the clients being a dork, I'm like, I didn't charge them enough, because I want to love my client. And I'll ask people this question a lot. They're like, I hate doing this work. I'm like, okay, what if you got paid double? Would you still hate it? They're like, I would still hate it. I'm like, what if they paid you 10 times as much? I'd love it. So you don't really hate the work. You just hate that you didn't price it properly. And so every time I have this feeling like that pain, it's like, oh, I just need to charge them more. So lesson learned. But we don't know that. So I don't go into it assuming that I've charged too little. I just ask for what I ask for. They agree, cool. I do the work. I measure the level of pain that I'm feeling. And what people might be thinking, what kind of pain? Pain in the ass. Client saying it should be red, and I don't like that typeface. I'm like, well, I'm firing you. I don't have time for this right now.
The headache is the client being a pain.
Client, yeah.
They're a headache. I don't have to deal with this.
So the test is this. And I borrow this from Blair Enns, even though he forgets this story. He goes, how much do you love your client? If it's Friday night at 6 p.m. and they call you, and you have caller ID, you're like, does it fill you with dread, or are you joyous to pick up the phone? If you're joyous, it means you've charged enough. And you are filled with dread, it's because you've not charged enough. And my goal in life is anybody that ever hires me, I don't care when, I don't care why, you call me, I'll be happy. And the only way I can guarantee that is if I just charge you so much money. I'm like, it would be my pleasure to help you, because of your patronage, I can afford the life and the lifestyle that I have. So I genuinely appreciate you.
And there's a negotiation clip, speaking of pricing yourself, that I think it went crazy viral on Shorts when Shorts were just getting started.
Yes.
When you look back at it now, revenue share or fixed price, what's actually better for freelancers?
Both can work. I'll give you a story. Where am I here? I'm in Australia. I'm doing a pricing workshop. One of the partners comes up to me. He's like, Chris, I need to learn value-based pricing. Oh, cool. I said, well, before we do that, let me ask you a couple of questions. This is a walk and talk. We're literally in the street walking from the venue to the restaurant. And in that short walk, I was able to figure it out for him. So here's the series of questions I asked him. What is the lowest you've ever been paid? They do web design, and they're like 10 grand. And what's the most you've ever been paid? He's like, most, like 800,000. But what is the average high and the average low? Let's look at that. Let's say they said 30 grand and 150 grand. Let's just say. I said, what price would you be really happy with if all your clients paid you this amount? He thought about it for a little bit. He's like, 100 grand. I said, why 100? Why not 150? Because most of their clients are coming in at under 50. So that's more than double already. So you don't need to learn value-based pricing. You just need to put on your website, projects start at 100 grand. So now all your projects will begin at a price point which you'd be really happy. He goes, oh. So sometimes I think creatives make it so difficult on themselves, like they got to learn this whole pricing economic theory. No, you don't. Find the price that works for you and say it. Say it with confidence and be willing to suffer the consequences, which is you're going to hear a lot of no's. And so when you hear a lot of no, it just means that there's a gap in perception and sometimes in skill between where you'd like to be and where you are. So the perception part of it is when you land on an Apple website, you're like, of course, it's the most expensive version of whatever I'm going to buy, because it reads it, it looks it, and they spend a god-awful amount of money with photography, with copywriting, with proofing, and they just get it just right. So we know we're going to spend money. I go to your website, it looks like a WordPress template from 2004. How does that instill confidence in me? It doesn't. So that's the perception gap. The other part of it is the skill gap. Perhaps you just don't have the skills that the market values at that price point in which you want to charge. The good news is somebody has been there before and can lessen your suffering and accelerate time to goal. That's it.
Yeah. And so what about rev share? That can still work?
It can work, but it's for sophisticated sellers of services, not for the average person. So if this person is asking me, Chris, I'm interested in rev share, I probably would tell them you're not, because the fact that we're having this conversation means you're not.
And what about that person we just talked about who's anchoring at, let's say now 100,000? They keep getting no too many times. Like you said, that signals there's a gap. Should they then just say, okay, let's go down to 80. Let's go down to a number where I start hearing some yeses and then it makes sense for me.
Possibly, but it doesn't look good.
Right.
Because once a brand starts to discount, you start to question the viability of that brand. It's easy to raise your prices. It's really difficult to lower them. So be careful about how you do this, and you have to believe in this. Personal story, when I was starting to do brand strategy, I had committed in my mind $10,000. I wanted to be paid $10,000 a day. And the reason why I got that number stuck in my head was a friend of mine had hired David C. Baker. He's a business consultant. And I asked him how much did he charge? And he says he charged me $10,000. For how long? He said, just for a day. He flew in, he consulted me for a day, and then he left, and I sent him the money. I said, were you happy? He goes, yes. Okay, cool. So I now knew that there was a benchmark that I could hit. And so I live in the world of possibility, not impossibility or improbability, of possibility. If somebody could do it, then I can do it. I don't care what their experience is or what their story is, but I'm going to get $10,000. So people would call and ask for help, and I'd say, look, before we get too far, it's going to be 10 grand. I don't care if you ask me to help you move a car or anything. If it's a logo or you need to do keynote, it's going to be 10 grand. They're like, why 10 grand? It's just 10 grand, man. And so I got no's for 1 year trying to sell brand strategy. And then one client said, yes. It took me a year to sell it. Luckily, I had other business to do, but I was just telling everyone that was new, it's going to be 10 grand. It did not back down from this. And after doing this strategy work for 10 grand, another person called, unrelated to this person. And then I said, it's 10 grand. They're like, no problem. So I said, okay, this is cool. I know what I'm doing. The next person is going to call me. It's going to be 30 grand. And it was 30 grand for a while, and then it became 100 grand. It's just a game. We played a game. And your confidence and your ability to deliver it and to be able to communicate to others, to signal to them you know what you're doing, is the reason why they'll pay you.
Guys, we've been so passionate about finding the biggest geniuses, and this is just one of the many episodes. If you want to make sure you don't miss the next one, make sure to subscribe. All right, let's get back to the episode. Was there a proposal that you sent out in your early days at Blind that makes you maybe cringe now?
Yeah, but not for the reasons that you think. When I learned how to bid and send out proposals, there was a period in time when I was between executive producers, and this gentleman came in and he was helping me out, and he put a proposal together, a bid. It's not a proposal, it's just a bid. It's for a large telecom company. And he wanted to go and socialize at 5 p.m., have drinks, meet up with some people. I'm like, cool. So he goes, you good with this? I'm like, I'm good with this. And he sends it off. And per our customary routine, I would take all the bids and bring them home to show my wife because she's our financial officer. And she's like, have you looked at this bid? I'm like, yes, but I'm scared because my wife don't ask questions unless there's a problem. I'm like, what's the problem? And she goes, this category is wrong because it's all hours at the bid, and then this one is days, but they wrote it in like it was hours. So they wrote like 80 days or something crazy in there. And I'm like, oh, shoot. So the bid was off by 0. It was a 0 higher than it should have been because that number was crazy. And she goes, what do you want to do? I'm like, oh my God. So I called the executive producer and said, bro, you messed up. He goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention to that. It's my fault. I'll call them, let them know I messed up. I'm like, do no such thing. we're just going to lose a job. I'd rather lose a job because we overbid it than to call them and tell them, oh, we don't know what we're doing with a bid. Because that's like a sign that you're not paying attention to anything. Lo and behold, we were awarded the job. We got the job with an extra zero in it. And this started to rewire my brain. Like, we impose so many limitations on what we think we're worth in the marketplace, but the market will tell us. And I had a strategy on how to explain that there are 80 days when the job's only 3 weeks long. We have a lot of people working on it. That's how we're going to solve that problem.
How big was that project? Do you remember?
It was so profitable. I don't remember the price, but with the fact that they awarded it and we did it, it was like 90% profit, like pure profit. It was amazing.
And did that lead you to start adding a zero to every new project that came through?
Oh, we came up with many creative ways to insert more money into the bid. We came up with this thing called the creative fee. So when we're doing a 5-page modified AICP bid form for commercial work, we couldn't get the numbers high enough because they want to see line by line breakdown. And so we were like, well, what can we do? I'm like, add a creative fee. Like, they will never buy that. I'm like, just do it. So we would arbitrarily just put in a number. So if the bid was $130,000, I might say add a $28,000 creative fee. Now, what if they ask? Just tell them that's how we work. And you know what? They almost never ask. They just look at the bottom line. Is it a number that they want to pay for or not? And so I use this word. It's a $6 word. Our job when we're bidding on a project like this, when they want to see the numbers, is to obfuscate how we get there, to make it difficult for them to figure out so they can compare us to other people. This is important. So if 3 companies, and oftentimes it's more than 3 companies, are bidding for a project, if we're all using the same bid form, which is more or less the same, they can then compare like, oh, they're high here, they're low there. And so I want to make it impossible for them to compare us to the next person. Either work with us or don't, but don't put your cost controllers on this and try to take this down. We find creative ways.
And I mean, this goes from, I assume, most businesses, not just creatives, right? Do you think most businesses are just charging too little?
No, because most businesses are undifferentiated. Picking up where we started, they're undifferentiated and they live in a space of like commodity. So if they get out of that space where they make it a little extra and special, then they can start to charge whatever they want to charge. And you can look at luxury goods as the ultimate example of basically a commodity that's got a really good story. And so people are willing to pay a premium.
How much of winning a deal is the proposal itself versus what already happened before it?
Define what happens before.
The sales call, building the brand up to even be able to get on that sales call, everything that happened before it versus maybe the proposal itself.
Okay. The proposal is nothing. The proposal is almost meaningless. It's a business document. I can't attribute percentages any kind of scientific way, but I think in a competitive bid where they have many options to do the work, especially when the work is in the hundreds of thousands, you open yourself up to international talent and competition basically at that point. They may have decided beforehand they're going to give it to company A because they just really like the work of company A, but their clients mandate they must triple bid this thing. Okay, so you already are potentially the shoe-in, but it's not a guarantee, it's not a lock. Because the other 2 companies are hungry and they're going to go after it, and so you have to show up too. If you take it for granted, you might lose a client. Everything is dependent on the call. And there's 2 calls that you have, the initial briefing call and then the what are your ideas call. Now, I'm talking about in the commercial space here, okay, because there's a lot of different examples of this. So we have initial call, and the way we used to do a call was it would be very short. They would walk you through the brief. Basically, they'd read the script to you and say, do you have any questions? And you would ask questions, and then you would go away and create your ideas. So before I got coaching on how to do this, that was a very tense call. They would say things, and then you think, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to ask them about right now? And it wouldn't be that long. They got things to do. Once I learned how to do these new business calls, we would tell them, our calls take a long time. If now's not a good time, let's reschedule, because my EP at that time would explain, Chris and the team, they're going to ask you lots of questions. And so they would go through the brief, and I would just ask them question after question after question. And I could tell it was mentally exhausting for them. And then I know I've done my job because they said, you asked really great questions. You got us thinking about things we never thought about. No one's asked us before. But what we did together on that call was we designed the solution together over the phone. We got into their brain. We surfaced their desires, their fears, their hopes, their dreams, what they tried before, what won't work, and what they would love to try in an ideal world. And we were kind of narrowing it down in the conversation. We demonstrate our expertise by the questions that we ask. So Dr. DeMartini would say the quality of your life depends on the quality of the questions you ask. So new business calls is the art of learning how to ask great questions. So the second call would be, we're now going to reflect back to you what we understood, what you wanted. And we used to do like 17 different designs. Now we come back with 2. Like, here's what we think you said, and here's, if you're like really brave, let's try this one. And more often than not, we win those projects. And the proposal at that point is numbers on a page. If the idea isn't good, they're not going to hire you.
Really? So it seems like that first call, which maybe you want to label it a discovery call,
Yes.
is really them seeing that you're interested and you're inquisitive and you're diving deeper than everyone else has done, which shows like, hey, this person's taking this job very seriously. And it's also the feedback you're getting from them with all the questions you're asking, because then on that second call, you're coming to them with something that the other people who bid probably aren't, because you've extracted so much more from them during that first discovery call. So it seems like that's one of probably the most important piece of the puzzle, is that discovery call.
Now you have to realize something. Most of the times, it feels like there's a casting director and we're an actor trying to try out for a part. So we are auditioning. But once you understand how to play the game and you believe in yourself and your worth, that you believe that you, what Blair Enns would say is you are the prize, which means that you have more ways of making money than they have options for solutions. And if you bring something quite unique to the table, then you're not just auditioning, you're auditing. So I'm auditing you right now. So we would ask them, how many people are bidding on this job? How many times have you done? We would ask them weird questions. They're like, whoa, we didn't know we were going to be put on the spot. We'd ask them, how are you making decisions on who you award the job to? What parameters are you considering? What is set in stone? What is a variable you want us to play with? What is a nice to have? What does a have to have? And some people would get all bent out of shape. And then we'd get off the call, and I'd say, we're not working with them. We're not going to proceed. Get out of the job. Make up a reason. Because I just don't feel like this is a person we can do good work for. Or they've already made up their mind. Or they're indecisive, they're unclear. Or a lot of different things. So you kind of think about it as, for a very short period, we are trying to project into the future, what's it going to be like to work with you? And if we throw off bad energy, you're going to say, like, I don't care how good they are, we're not working together. And the same with us. It's like, I don't care how much money's on the table, we're not working together. And we don't exercise that right or that thought process as often as we should as creative people. So we've bowed out of many jobs before because, you know what, this is a bad gig, we're out.
So part of that discovery call is you interviewing them to see if they're a good fit for you.
Absolutely.
And do you think most creatives, even just as they're just first getting started, have the ability to do that?
Everyone has the ability to do that, but I wouldn't even rule out just getting started. I don't think most creative entrepreneurs do that. They feel beholden to the client. They worship the mighty dollar, and they think unfortunately, with their scarcity lack mindset, that if they don't get this gig at all costs, no new opportunities will come. I'm patient, and I believe in it, in myself, that something else better is going to come.
I saw a short you did about anchoring, and it got me thinking, should you even be asking clients what their budget is, or do you just lead with your number? Like, what's the play in 2026?
There's so many different ways to do this. If you're asking me personally, I just tell people at the first interaction, which is a DM, how much money do you have? We get into the money conversation right away. Okay, so somebody has sent me a message saying, Chris, I've been told you are the person to help me with my personal brand. I want to work with you. What's that like? I said, before I get into any details, let me tell you, I have two prices. Price number one is I do the brand strategy for you. I do deliverables. It's going to be $50,000. Price number two, I do the exact same thing, except for it's $100,000. And then I write, what's the difference between price 1 and price 2? Is price 1 is you just do what I tell you to do. Price number 2 is you tell me what you want to do. Which one works for you? I just tell people, because I don't have time for that. This is now what I've discovered is, if you're willing to pay me $100,000, I'll put up with your nonsense. And you know, the thing, and people are going to hear this like, what is wrong with this guy? He's so full of himself. Well, I believe in what I do. I believe I have a unique perspective on things. And if you'd like to work with me, I'd love to work with you. But it's one of these things where like, you're the aspiring tennis athlete and I'm the tennis coach. So please don't hire me to tell me how to coach you, because you already know the answer then. You don't need me. And if you want to pay me to babysit you through this process, I'm happy to do that for double the price. And so there are people who know this. Like, I want to try and say this objectively so it doesn't sound so terrible, but I've done the training, I've done the 10,000 plus hours over 2 decades, won multiple awards, judged shows. I think I know what I'm doing when it comes to design and aesthetics. I think I know more about it than you do. So when people come to me and it's like, well, I don't like those colors and I don't like this and shouldn't we do that and can we explore that? I'm like, okay, so why are we talking, friend?
Do you get that often? It seems like when you're the expert at what you do, you're in the 0.1% of what you do. X client comes to you, they're not 99 out of 100 times in that same position, and they're like telling you to change colors on a logo, telling you to, I mean, is that common?
It is common, and the reason why it's common is because we think we can see something, we over-index on our confidence that because we know 2 things about it, like we know what we're doing. Now, I respect each person's business. I would not tell you how to run your business. I would not impose something on you when you tell me there's a business case for this to happen. I would not do that because I don't know your business that well. But when it comes to things like, oh, that aesthetic isn't right, and well, so you basically want more of the same, which is fine. Here's the example. A while ago, big. I think there's also another telecom company. They paid us the most we've ever been paid to do strategy work. I think they paid us over $100,000. Maybe it was 120. And they also paid us like $100,000 to do the logo. The logo objectively is 5% different than their current logo.
Just 5% different?
Yeah. We explored all these things. We went down so many different rounds and revisions and tried different concepts, mock-ups, all of it was great. And the one they picked was just like 5% different from the one they already had. And I respect that because they paid us almost $250,000. I'm good with that. That's what you want to do? Totally fine. But when you're paying me $50,000 and you're telling me this, I don't know if I want to do that. Not really that interested.
So you gave them concepts that were a little different from what they had.
Or we explored everything.
Yeah, and they just kind of kept narrowing it down back to something very, very similar to what they already had, because that's probably what they were just comfortable with.
Yeah, and it's human nature. Change is hard for us in every different way. If you move to another city, go to a new school, if you try on different shoes you've never worn before, or if you cut your hair differently, change is very difficult for us because of inertia. And I understand that. So I like to work with clients who are clear thinkers. They make decisions like they're concise and clear. They're decisive. And they have really discerning tastes. They know good from bad. And they're also smart enough to know what they don't know, and they get out of their own way.
But is that rare?
It is rare-ish, but if you put the energy out into the world, you will find exactly those people. Because literally people have come up to me after a conference when I'm speaking. They're like, I need to hire you to do my fashion. I'm like, I'm not available. Like, I will pay you. I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're like, well, I'll do what you say. I'm like, okay, those are the magic words now.
Right.
It's all positioning at this point.
Right. But when you're first starting, that might be a little bit more difficult for someone who just financially, like, I need this job. I'm not going to put myself in that position where they're going to say no because I want to charge double because I don't want to hear any nonsense from them. So it might be a little harder for someone just getting started. But that's the goal, is get yourself, your skill and your confidence to where you can say no to a client.
Well, let me say this, I'm going to try and flip this on you, okay? Because you've said many times, is the audience mostly just getting started?
Both, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, entrepreneurs.
Let me tell you this thing, and maybe this will be a moment that will change it for a lot of people. When we're first starting, we're not sure about ourselves, and so we ask for less money. And then we do the work. And sometimes we feel quite bitter doing the work. Like, I'm worth more, but I resent not asking for more. And then I do okay in the job. And I'm kind of bitter, and some of that rubs off in the client interaction. So they might get a good product from you, but they don't get a great feeling because you're not willing to go above and beyond. You're not literally thanking them and filled with gratitude because you undercharge for the work. That's your fault, by the way. And so now you have in your mind, like, I can charge this amount. And then that client tells 2 other people, which means you've done a good job. And they say, you should hire Billy. You should hire Jenny. They can do it for this amount. And so what you do is you get more of this low price work. You're not attracting the kinds of people. So it furthers this narrative in your brain, like, maybe I'm not worth that much. And so what happens is you begin this journey, and it's called the vicious cycle. Imagine a vortex and you're just going down the drain. I don't know if I'm worth much, so I don't charge much. So then I confirm that I'm not worth much, and then I don't charge much, and you just keep going down and down. And this happens at the beginning. So what if we just flip the narrative? Like, you got a little sprinkle of what it is I'm putting out into the world. I was just starting too, but I believed in myself. I worked really hard in school, and I did way more than what many of my classmates did in terms of output. And I knew I was good. So my first opportunity, I just charged more. I didn't have the experience or the confidence or the belief that it could work. I just tried it first, and they're both based on belief. So instead of asking for less, which was scenario A, I asked for more. And so people paid me more. So then I told myself I must be worth more. So let me try that again. And you just do it again. So this time it's the same vortex, except for we're going from the bottom and we're going up and up. That's called the virtuous cycle. So you just have to ask yourself, when is the most important time to make this decision? When you're old and gray, when you're like a grizzly 10-year veteran into this? Does that ever happen? I don't think so. It happens right at the beginning. You can choose what is harder. Is it harder to ask for more and get everything you want and build up yourself? Or is it harder to ask for less and then to spiral into the darkness and then be bitter about what it is that you're doing? I think it's much more difficult to ask for less than it is to ask for more.
And it seems like that self-confidence and that self-belief was big. Where did that come from for you?
Repetition, putting in the work. Nothing builds confidence like looking at a problem 1,000 times. You just keep doing the work. Now, this is where that line comes in. Perfect practice makes perfect, not practice makes perfect. So having a guide, a mentor, instructor, a coach, something where you can practice perfectly, that will build the confidence.
So it's about the reps, putting in the reps.
Putting in the reps under the right direction. Because if you dig a hole and you're not in the right spot, you will never strike gold.
Was there a call where you walked away and you were sure you understood the client and then you were dead wrong? And if
so many.
And what did you miss? And then what did you find out?
I would consider the first 3 years, maybe 4 years of running the business, it was just a lot of luck and randomness. And we were beneficiaries of high demand, low supply. There weren't a lot of people in the world that could do what we were doing. And so I could survive based on numbers because there's just more opportunities. I could mess up a lot, and I did mess up a lot. Had I known then, had I known what I knew now back then from day one, I would be sitting on millions and millions of dollars because we've lost so many projects. We lost a project to Nissan, to Sun Microsystems. We didn't lose a project to them. We lost a project for Nissan, for Sun Microsystems. The list goes on. Janus Funds, just job after job, hundreds of thousands of dollars, year one out of school, because I didn't know how to play the game. I didn't know how to conduct a conference call, a new business call. I didn't know how to ask the right questions. And so there are many cringy things that I did. I'm like, what are you thinking, you idiot? And I was desperate. So if you can imagine being invited to a party but not being let in time and time again, you become depressed. You start to think, I'm not cut out for this world. And so I asked for help, and I got really bad advice. So that did even more damage. And then eventually I found the right person to help me, and we started to do great things.
Was that a mentor, a business partner? Who was that?
A business coach.
So first you started trying to find help, and you got pointed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
You kept going on down the wrong vortex.
Well, you would have enough success to keep you going. And so the thing that I encourage people is when you're young, this is the time to do it because your overhead's really low. You don't have any commitments. You don't have a partner. You don't have a family. You don't have a mortgage yet. So why not take the risk then? So people tell themselves a really great story. It's a lie. In the word belief is the word lie. So you believe that when it happens, you'll take more risk. But what happens is 10 years later, you've got commitments, you've got car payments, you have insurance, maybe you have a little one running around the house. And now it's like, when are you going to take a chance? There's a book by Paul Arden. It says, whatever you think the opposite. And in that book, he says, risky is safe, safe is risky. To play it safe is the riskiest thing that you can do. And that's what you're doing.
That's what most people do, just play it safe.
Everybody plays it safe. And I always have to check myself. We're playing it safe. Let's change it up. So let's go for a moonshot.
And what's a signal on a call that you used to trust as proof you nailed it that you now know is a trap?
I think you mistake general enthusiasm and people being cordial and amiable on the call as like you're going to get the job. I don't believe that because now I've learned that there are a lot of false positives. And you learn that through experience and through coaching and guidance.
So a lot of that coaching, it seems that elevated you to the next level was that on coaching for that discovery call, or coaching on how you're interacting with clients, maybe the proposal itself.
Just a discovery call.
Discovery call.
Yeah.
That's it. If you can nail the discovery call, they'll see the value and they'll want to work with you, even if your price is double your competitors.
Yeah. My goal is to be the most expensive bid and for you to want to work with me and be happy about it. Anybody can win the project being the lowest bid. The challenge is being the highest bid. And I've created uncomfortable situations for my team, and they were always wrong. I'll give you 2 examples. In the line of work that we were doing for commercials, if the clients changed the scope, you asked for an overage. And my producer at that time came in and was like, what should we ask for? I've done the numbers. It's my time, this person's time, and they're just calculating time. And so let's say they're like, it's $1,200. I'm like, that's embarrassing. It's a $180,000 job. You're going to ask for another $1,000, $1,200? I think we're nickel and diming people at this point. So if you're going to ask for a number, ask for a real number. He goes, how much should I ask for? $5,000, $10,000, something like that. He goes, how would I justify that? You don't. You just tell it to them. And if they have a problem with it, you schedule a call and we'll get on the phone. And he's like, whatever, you're the boss, I'll do it. And then he sends a number. He's probably sheepishly sends out the number. And then moments later, the client's approved it. He comes running back to me, just giddy. He's like, Chris, they approved him. I'm like, I know how this game works, friend. So I think he learned a valuable lesson. I already knew the lesson then. If you're gonna just ask for little bits, don't do that. It's super annoying. We call it nickel and dime. You know, like when you buy a car and like, do you want a floor mat? $45. I'm like, guys, it's a $70,000 car. Don't you think you could just charge it, build it in so you don't nickel and dime me? Include every option that a reasonable person would want. I don't need ceramic brakes, but other than that, like put everything in it and just charge me the right amount. I don't respect you then. It's like, we're not a bazaar. Don't ask for those little things. So that's an example there. Another example is I remember on a call, it's a good client and we're talking to them and they're adding things to the project. So they're like, you know what? We need a keynote animation because our CEO is going to be speaking. There's going to be 500 of us there. It's going to be great. I'm like, cool. They're like, we have $100,000 to do this. I said, okay. And so all my team's smiling. We hang up the phone. They're like, I'll put together the bid. What should I put? I'm going to put it for $100,000. I'm like, no, you're not. Put it for 118. I'm like, what? Why would we do that? They just told us it's $100,000. We're betraying the trust. I'm like, what trust? You think that literally the person is telling you the exact amount of money they have? I always want to find the ceiling. So they're like, oh, I'll do it. Because they're on the front line talking to the client. They're afraid of the blowback, right? Like, what are you doing? So sure enough, next day, he's like, they're not happy with this. I'm like, get him on the phone. This is pre-Zoom. We're sitting around a conference room table, no video, just talking. Gets on the phone and is like, so guys, we told you we had $100,000. What are you submitting 118 for? And you could tell they're upset. You can hear it in their voice. Like, so here's how things typically work. We submit something, we bid it to the bone, and then you ask for something. or something changes, and then we feel like we bit it to the bone, I'm going to ask you for more money. No project is ever a straight line. There's always these ups and downs. The two things I'm trying to prevent is us calling you every single time you want to make a decision, and two, your reluctance to call us because you want to make a decision that's different. You want to make a change. So I price it in a way that we can do this, and you can ask me for whatever within reason, and we're just going to do it. It's like, okay. I said, look, you tell me what you want to do. You can sign it for 118 or you can sign it for 100, and just be aware when you sign it for 100 and you ask us something, because inevitably something comes up, we'll ask you to go get more money. We're trying to prevent that. He's like, okay, calms down. They approved for 118. The most beautiful part is they never asked for anything different. They just loved what we did.
They never asked for anything
They never
else.
asked for anything extra, which is ironic because everybody always asks for extra. So those are two stories. I have an infinite number of these stories where this idea about money and relationships and creating, I think, necessary friction in the relationship to test how badly you want to work with us, that's important for me.
So you try to create the friction
Absolutely.
because it shows you how far they're going to push and how far you can push and where that middle ground is.
I don't look at it like that. I think there's unnecessary friction and there's necessary friction. Unnecessary friction is you taking 4 days to send a proposal. They call and you don't respond for another 8 hours. That's not being responsive. That's creating friction. You're not clear about what they're getting and what they're paying and what the milestones are. That's unnecessary friction. Necessary friction is, I want to see how strong our relationship's going to be. How bad do you want it? I want to know before I commit to doing this work with you that you want it as much as I want it, because we're going to be partners for the period of time. And I want to just know. So necessary friction is a price point, is asking for a concession. Those are necessary friction. Oh, you really do want to work with us. You're not just triple bidding us right now. This is not a game for you. You're serious right now. And you might say, like in lots of games or coaches, they'll do this. Like, how bad do you want to win, Johnny? You get back off the stool. You go finish round 3 like your life depends on it. And Johnny's like, yes, sir. And they just go in there and they do battle. We want to know.
And what are some of the different ways you create that necessary friction, maybe other than price?
Other than price and asking for concessions?
Yeah.
Well, let's go. Like, concessions is a big word, right? Like, what does that really mean? Is the due date really the 27th? Because we'd like a little bit more time to work on this. We won't charge you more, but we need more time. Like, the latest we can give you is the 31st. Latest? Well, yeah. Okay. Now, I noticed that you don't pay for like 90 days, net 90. We can't do that. We need the first 50. Okay, we can do that. So those are all concessions. So there's a lot of different things you can ask for to see. That creates friction. Or I see that you're asking for new ideas. We don't do that. I'll give you an example. Okay. Unbeknownst to me at that time, somebody had recommended us for a gig, one that we were not qualified for. So we got an RFP, a request for proposal, and they had all these specs, and it was a $100,000 budget. They just told us, $100,000. We need to see ideas. It's like a large real estate developer, commercial. And I looked at it, I'm like, we can't do all that they've asked for. And we're definitely not doing free ideas because that's what they've asked for. And they're like, what do you want me to do? My executive producer. I said, well, tell them we can't do everything, but we can do some things, but we don't do free ideas. But I can send together a capabilities deck, which we did. That's what we did. And they're like, they'd like to have a meeting. So I think they invited 7 people to this bidding process because they were looking for a new vendor. We're one of 7. So we go into the meeting and I show them the capabilities deck and I walk them through the ideas. And I can tell we're going to get this gig. And the reason why I know this is because body language and tone. Everybody's relaxed in the face. They're smiling. They're leaning in. Because they're sitting on the opposite end of the table, a table twice as long as this. I'm on this side, monitor, laptop, driving the presentation. And they're on that side. There's 3 or 4 of them, right? I'm trying to figure out who's the boss, like who's making decisions, what's the energy like. And I'm doing what I do. I'm sometimes acerbic, sardonic, and sometimes I'm just charming. I just do whatever I do and I present. And then we get up, and they did ask this, are you going to present to us any ideas? I said, no, I thought we were clear about that. They're like, no, we're just asking. And I said, the reason why we don't present ideas is because our whole philosophy and how we do what we do requires you to be a part of it. I'm not going to make guesses as to what you want or what your customers want, and that's where the real insights come from. They're like, okay, it's fine. So we get up, and the one lady who brought us in as part of their team is like, that went really well. I'm like, okay, you just buttering me up for a soft landing? I don't know. We get in the car, and they're like, we're going to award the job to you. 6 other people presented ideas. We didn't present any ideas. We still got the job. That is necessary friction. We're going to derail your bidding process by doing it differently, therefore making it impossible for you to compare us to others. And what I did in that meeting was I planted seeds of doubt that every other idea that you're going to see is based on assumptions. I can't work that way. And you shouldn't accept that either.
It's very smart.
That's what we do.
Let me ask you this. What are the 3 elements of like great design?
Can we narrow down what design we're talking? What's the application of
Let's
design?
say a logo.
Okay, a logo needs to be different. It needs to be memorable, and it needs to be simple.
Was there a piece of content that you made that was great at the time, and now you've like, you cringe when you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time.
Really?
Yeah. Every time I use a display typeface, I'm like, I thought it was cool, but now I'm looking at it, it's like, that's why timeless design doesn't veer away from like the 22 typefaces you're supposed to use. Every time I use one of them, and I fall for it. I'm like, maybe this time I'll get it to work. I use some trashy display typeface, and then the client's still using it to this day. I'm like, oof, how do I get myself out of this? But it's fine.
Do you want to go back to those clients and like, you need to change this?
Cannot. Got to move forward.
But how do you know what's timeless versus what's not timeless?
Well, how long has it been around? If it was just invented last year, we don't know. But if we're still using the same typefaces that the Swiss German masters have designed, we're probably going to be all right.
Is there a framework that you taught with total confidence for years and then quietly stopped believing in?
No, I don't think so. I think that if there's a framework that doesn't work, it just evolves to the next thing. And then we don't know where one stops and one begins. It just becomes the thing.
Is there something that you've said on stage in the past that you're not sure is true anymore?
Probably. I think that work is good. I'm just kidding. I don't think so. I pride myself on being fairly introspective and going beyond the surface. And so I do think about my thoughts quite a bit. I do regret, though, the tone in which I say things. Because I get caught up in the heat of the moment, and my tone sounds like I'm an a-hole. So I listen to some of those sessions, I'm like, oh, why am I so angry with the world? And I know why, because freaking idiots ask me stupid questions and then telling me how I should answer the question is like, oh, that's why. So I need to do like a daily prayer meditation to calm the F down, because my tone is not right.
Does that come from your childhood?
No, well, everything comes from your childhood. It just comes from like, are you an idiot? You want to do battle? Let's go. When somebody is, people always wonder like, why is it that it always feels like I'm fighting with someone and that they can never stand their ground with me? Because only idiots want to argue. Because smart, intelligent people have already figured out this logic, and if they're on the fence, as soon as you say it to them, they concede immediately. I'll give you an example. A buddy of mine, his name is Fabian Gerhalter, fellow Art Center grad. And we were set up to debate something about marketing versus branding. And he was in there like, branding is so good and marketing is different. And I asked him like 3 questions, and he conceded. That's what intelligent people do. When you hear a superior argument or a case or a thought, you just let go. So all those people, we never argue. Like, you never see me go at tooth and nail with someone who's smart, because we're both curious and we're both in pursuit of knowledge. Like philosophy, I consider myself an amateur philosopher. It's like philos means love and Sophie means wisdom. or truth. I love truth. It's what I'm pursuing. So to be a critical thinker means you critique your own thoughts first. So most people who aren't deep thinkers never even think that their opinion could be right or wrong. They just assume it's right. I sit there and I'm like, when is this true? When is this untrue? And in my life and other people's lives, can I just test it? I'm looking for a negative. So if it's a negative, it means that this whole idea is not good. So I battle test in my mind first, and then I speak it to you. And you say, but what about this, Chris? And if you present a superior framework, truth, new point that I need to consider, I'm like, okay. I don't feel like I'm losing, but I surrender to the superior idea, and that idea will become my idea now. I just throw out the old idea, I bring in the new idea. It's like what many people would call like the learner's mindset. I have a learner's mindset, I'm curious. And so when I get heated, it's because people are being evasive, they're being obstinate, they're being obtuse, and they know they're doing it because they can concede defeat. It's like we're playing chess and you're just gonna keep moving your piece back and forth. A real chess player just knocks over the king and says, I see. I cannot win this, therefore you win.
Okay, let's go back to blind. What's outside of maybe discovery, what's the most expensive mistake you think you made running blind for 2 decades?
The most expensive mistake is not reading the contract carefully and agreeing to a contract that auto-renews. I have sales reps, and the reps represent you for different territories in the world. So 3 in the US, East, West, and Midwest, and also overseas, Asia, Europe. We have reps looking for work for us. Our rep had in her contract that it auto-renews every year unless we explicitly write or tell the person it's over. The relationship was kind of on thin ice. We're both questioning it. They're questioning us. We're questioning them. And so we get into a moment where the rep quits on us. It's like, well, you can find yourself a new rep then, because I don't work this way. So I'm like, okay, she quit. It's all good. So that's like October, November, December. We don't even talk to her. We're just doing our own thing. January rolls around and she goes, hey guys, you want to send me the bid forms for November, December? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm still your rep. It's like, no, you're not. You quit. And she's like, no, I didn't. Read your contract. And we're trying to look through our notes if it was memorialized, like October, XYZ quit, to have an email. We have no evidence of this except for 2 of us on the call and 1 of her. And she goes, well, what are we going to do here? And I'm just pissed. And I call my attorney. He's like, what up with this? And he goes, well, you can fight it, but it's not worth it. So she wants to audit every job that we've got in the territory, and she wants to make her commission. She did not call us once. She didn't check on anything. And I think it was extremely deceitful and unethical what she did. But she knew we're creatives, we don't read contracts. And so I had to pay her to get out of the contract for work she didn't do, for a job she quit on. That lesson cost me 36 grand. It was a bitter pill to swallow.
What changed from like, a 5-person studio to a 20-person studio, and kind of what fell apart?
Well, obvious things are overhead. You hire based on anticipation of jobs you don't have yet. And so you're always measuring risk, because in order for us to do work at the highest level, we need the team. Those teams are very expensive. And so you hire them when you can, because otherwise they're freelancing and they always move around and they're not predictable in that way, not reliable. And so you hire people based on the assumption that work will come in, and then when work dries up, you're kind of hosed. Unfortunately, this is the worst part of managing a company, is throughout the 2+ decades in which I ran blind, I've had to lay off a good portion of my team multiple times. It never felt good. And it always felt like I've betrayed them or I've let them down. My job as a boss is, if you show up every day, give me your best, that your job should be safe. A couple of times I had to let go 3 of my staff of like 8. It was because the market's changed and I don't see them changing. And so I had to let them go to make room for new. But a lot of times it was because financially, like, we can't support this.
And let's talk about Blind's shift, right? You started to pivot into education. Walk me through the exact moment that that decision stopped being optional.
I know exactly when it was. It was December of 2018. We were sitting around the table, and we're running two companies at this point, Blind and the Future. And I have all of the managers in the room, and we're talking about what are we gonna do. And it seems like Blind is not making enough money, and neither is the Future, but it was a very small team. And so I said, let's do this, guys. We need to generate some new leads. Can you all just reach out to who you know and let them know we're looking for work, and if anybody needs anything, let us know. And then one guy raised his hand and said, do we really want to do that? Because if we invest our time and energy to making the Future profitable, it actually makes more money net than Blind did. Back then, Blind was doing somewhere between $4 to $5 million a year. And the Future is like doing a couple $100,000. But when we did a project for the Future and things worked, like we did a product launch, it might do a couple $100,000, but it's almost all profit. So we would have to do probably a little over $1 million to make that same amount of money net. But the work was infinitely more enjoyable, less stressful, and we had great agency over the work. Nobody told us what to do. We did whatever we wanted. So like, why don't we just optimize the Future? Let's do that. So I think that year we went from, I think around $1.2 million a year to like $3 million or $2.8 million. And that was the last time we took on new client work. So I celebrate my Freedom Day, December 2018.
Freedom from clients. And was that a little sad?
Not at all. I know people like client work, but when you taste freedom, you don't miss it. None of them missed it, which shocked me. So in December 2018, we talked about it. So I said, let's just do this. Everybody, contact whoever you can contact. It will take you less than a day. Let's do that and see what happens, and then we will shift our focus. And sure enough, just because you ask for work doesn't mean work comes. And I think a couple days after that, one of our biggest clients called us up for a big consumer electronics company in the entertainment industry, called us and said, we have a massive job, you guys want to do it? And I went to the creative director who's been working with the client. What do you want to do? I fully expected him to say, let's do it. This is amazing. We get to do another one of these projects with them. He's like, I think we're done. I thought he was going to fight me. I'm like, okay, we're done. So we called him up and said, guys, we're focused on an education company. We're not doing this work anymore. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Like, under what conditions would you do this work? That's called necessary friction, by the way. Not that we intend for it to be that way. And they're like, just tell us what conditions you would do this. We support you in the education business. They're good friends of ours. And my creative director at the time said, we want to do just the ideas. We don't want to do any production, and you're going to pay us this amount. It was impossible for them to say yes to that. It's like, we cannot do this way. Thank you for trying. And they tried one more time to give us an even bigger project, and that was the last time we had to consider work. Looking back though, what is shocking to me is when you don't actively have systems in place and are not signaling to the market you want work, the work disappeared so fast. Because December 2008, we decided we're not going to take any new client work. We're going to service our existing clients. We're going to let them all know we're done. I think we had 2 or 3 new job leads, and then 0. It just disappeared. Kind of wild. So what took 20 some odd years to build up, it would disappear like that. That's a cautionary tale for anyone who's like, gets work and does the work and then thinks more work is coming in. If you're not actively signaling, working on, and have systems in place, the work disappears.
And the Future just started taking off.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the Future's model was giving away for free what everyone else was selling.
That wasn't the big idea. It just happened to be the way it worked out.
Okay. Was there someone that told you like, oh, this is a terrible idea, but and it just...
I knew it was a terrible idea. And the team told me every day, Chris, why are you making this video? We have no products.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to make a product. Can you guys find me a sponsor, just a filthy rich patron of the arts or education and just give us money. Clearly that wasn't the case.
And so what were those early numbers? You talked about them a little bit in terms of like revenue, audience, when did it cross from like, okay, like this is an experiment to like, we know this is working?
That year, December 2018, I think we closed that year doing something like $1.2 million as the Futur, which is a staggering number for me. And we were growing the company 300% year over year. And the next year, we didn't quite do 3.6. I think we did 2.8, 3.2, something. I can't remember exact number, but it was great because it was way more profitable.
Yeah, the margins were completely different.
Completely different.
The margins in the agency were what, maybe 20, 25% or something, maybe even less?
Yeah.
And the margins on the new business are what, 80, 90, 70, 50?
In theory.
Maybe now it's different, but when it first started.
Yeah, in theory, that is true. The problem is we had this legacy building and system in place that was very expensive to keep up. We were in a building that was 9,000 square feet for a YouTube channel. Made no freaking sense, right? So the monthly nut on the building itself was just outrageous relative to us. And all the guys were making six figures. And it's like, what kind of YouTube channel are we? What are we doing here? Because people are just in their bedrooms making content by themselves with a freelancer from overseas. Here we are with red cameras, a stage that's not this big, but it was a stage with all this gear, all this overhead, and like a team of 8 or 9 people. It's like it was too much.
And when you made that transition, right, how much of that bet was conviction versus just like, we have no other option?
No, we have options. We walked away from our options.
Right.
We burned the boats. Like, if we're going to be settlers in a new land, the expression burn the boats is like you have no way to return.
You had conviction, you were confident, and obviously it started taking off pretty much right away. So that led you to be like, okay, I need to pour my time into this.
Yeah, I think once we hit $1 million in revenue, I was like, I think there's a real business. We can do this. It didn't support everybody in our overhead, but we did it.
Okay, give me your most boring piece of business advice, like the unglamorous thing that built more wealth for you than any clever tactic would, and tell it to me in your most boring way possible.
The most boring piece of advice I can give you is keep your expenses low. I think people, when they start making money, they want to reward themselves by falling into all the trappings of buying a fancy car, fancy watches and things like that. This is how rich people keep poor people poor. The rich aren't concerned about this. So there's this idea that I have. It's called the game of money. The game of money goes something like this. You need to make enough money so that your money makes you money. The problem is we get close to that, and what we do is we have low impulse control. We have short-term thinking, so we buy things. Now, back where I grew up in NorCal in Silicon Valley, and immigrant culture, people want to flex. They want to flex with the Gucci, Fendi bags, their expensive shoes and sunglasses, and their BMW or their Mercedes. And they live in a tiny little house somewhere. And this is unfortunately part of like the mindset that traps poor people. What happens is the rich sell you an idea of what it's to be like, what's like to be rich, by selling you little fragments and artifacts of real wealth. So we can't afford the helicopter. We can't afford the European, Italian vacation in a private mansion. So what they do is they sell you the symbols of that life, the fragrance, literally, the clothes or the bow tie or whatever it is. They sell you little pieces of that life, and then they create ads to sell you the fantasy. So what we do is we part with that money, so that money helps them to make more money, but it doesn't get you out of the hole. So you want to hit escape velocity on this by making enough money so your money makes you money. Because now you're going to be freed from exchanging time for money. So if you have enough money you put in the market, and the market makes money, or you use that money to develop different ideas, an app, you flip properties, you do something else with your money other than how you made that money in the first place. That's what all rich people do. So if we can delay gratification and have some impulse control, then what we do is we live modestly, keep our expenses low, and we build up enough of that money so that we can hit escape velocity, right? So people don't understand this, and I'll share this right now. 2 or 3 years into the business, I made enough money because rent was $1,000. I remember that. And had not a lot of things. I drove a used car, hand-me-down, from my older brother until it broke. And so the first car I bought with my own money was a Honda Civic hatchback SE, no frills at all. Thank God it had air conditioning, but other than that, no power windows, no nothing. And my girlfriend, later my wife, we bought a house in Venice that was $510,000. We were only able to buy the house because my wife's parents gave us the deposit, $100,000. A few years later, we sold that house for $2.2 million. That's how your money makes you money. So we bought our next house, was millions more, and sold it for millions more than what we bought it. So our money just keeps making us money. And we use our money to buy real estate. So we bought a building for $1 million. This is the first $1 million building I purchased. That building is worth somewhere between $3 to $6 million right now. I now own multiple buildings. This is how you build wealth.
All right, let's talk about the hourly model. Who actually benefits from the hourly rate, the client or the creative? Because you have a clip, if I'm not mistaken, that has like over 100 million views where you completely destroy the hourly model. And meanwhile, most creatives are still doing it. Why is it so hard to let go?
Our whole society is built on this idea of your worth is built around a unit of time. I didn't know this, but I read in Implementing Value Pricing by Ron J. Baker, he says an acre was the amount of land an ox could plow in a day. So we have like really 100-year-long practices of understanding a person's value based on time. I mean, that didn't even make sense. Like, wow, an acre is measured by how much land an ox can plow in a day. That's nuts to me. And so when we're getting in the Industrial Revolution and we're having low-skill laborers work, when there was a plentiful supply of humans who needed money, management, businesses, entrepreneurs kind of figured out, okay, you clock in, you clock out. And we evolve into the professional practices. The hourly billing thing is actually developed by lawyers. They're the professional service people who's like, this is our rate, we just charge by the hour, and that's what they do. And so then we think, well, if lawyers, they're pretty smart, they're successful, maybe that's the way we do everything. And so everything is measured against time. And it doesn't take into account what we're really doing. And the Marxist theory of labor is that things should only cost what is necessary for it to produce. That everything else is the evils of capitalism. So if it costs $4 to make something, you should charge $4. But if you charge $8, that's capitalism at play, taking advantage of the labor of people. And that's kind of why we're stuck here. So much of our culture is built on this. And I understand in some instances, it's actually a lot better for you to do hourly. For example, you don't have to think about it. And if you're tracking your time carefully, then everything works just fine. And it doesn't require a lot of friction in terms of the client relationship. I have somebody coming over. They're going to bill me $30 an hour. And my cleaners work on hourly rate. They clean the house. You clean, you don't. That's what we pay them. And it's because in order for you to move away from that model, you have to differentiate yourself and you have to provide some intangible thing that then creates a feeling that I want to pay more for. That's where it becomes really tricky. So we just bill hourly because it's convenient, it's cultural, and we're not comfortable thinking about it any other way. And there are a lot of people who will fight me tooth and nail in that video that you talked about, who was like, this is evil, this is bad. I'm like, well, charge whatever you want. Use whatever system you like. If it's working for you, don't listen to me. I don't care.
What's a strength of yours that people praise you for that has cost you more than it's made you?
People praise me for my generosity. How I'm willing to sit down and talk to people. How I'm willing to give up my time to help people, that I'm a real one. And clearly, I'm not charging anybody for that. So that will just cost me money. But I believe there's a higher currency, not dollars and cents, but the currency of karma, of goodwill, of energy. And so that will tend to pay off way better than here's $4 for my time.
You truly believe in karma? Like if you do something good for someone, some good things are going to happen to you?
Yeah. There's my friend Jose, who's my former partner, he would call it karmic equity. So there's a ledger somewhere of energy, and you put it out there. It doesn't come back to you the way you want, when you want. It doesn't work like that. It's not transactional. So you try to do good things in the world, and sometimes good things happen for you.
Yeah, I actually truly believe in karma, because I've done some really good things and had some really good things happen to me. When I was younger, I was doing some things that weren't so good, and I was having some bad things happen to me. So truly believe in karma. Let's talk about personal brand for a second. When you watch someone's personal brand, what's the exact tell that it's maybe a performance and not who that person really is? And does that matter?
Yeah. I want to restructure the question a little bit. I don't watch people's personal brand. I experience them as a human, and I develop opinions about them. What I see on Instagram, what you're talking about, is someone doing something or something on stage, and we can tell it's performative. It's like, because we've evolved over however many years you think humans have been on Earth, to notice certain things purely based on survival. Body language, tonality, micro expressions. There's little things that we all do that betray what we're really thinking. I think I heard Vanessa Van Edwards talk about this, and it says, the mind lives in fantasy, the body lives in reality. You can tell a lie with your mind. You can believe something to be true in your mind, but your body tells the truth, your body keeps the score. So when somebody's like, let's do this, and they shake their head, it's because they know they don't want to do this. And then you pay careful attention to that. So turn off their voice and just look at their body. In this way, it'd be better if you wore earplugs and just said, like, what am I seeing? How's this person behaving right now? There's also this other theory that I have in the body that keeps, your body keeps the score, is that you notice when you look at someone, you have a feeling about them, like they're trustworthy, they're honest, they're giving, they're kind. And it's because their facial features, you've kind of figured out over time, kind people do these things, kind people say these things. And let's pretend like you're not trying to pick up somebody, but like you look at somebody, you're like, you have really kind eyes. Or you look like you're a giving soul, or you're patient. And the reason why I think that is because if I worry a lot, I will furrow my eyebrows and there will be a line here. Your body keeps a score. If you smile a lot, you have a lot of smile lines around your eyes and around your jowl, right? And you have that, and it keeps the score. So when you look at somebody and they look grumpy, frumpy, mean, like they look shifty because their eyes are like, man, we're doing this kind of thing. It's like, why are you doing that? So what we learn, unless they're really, really good at faking it, and some people are, sociopaths are, is calmness in spirit and energy and body and movement projects a certain confidence and energy to the room. We're like, wow, I'd like to get to know this person. They figured out something. It seems like they have inner peace. So if I'm nervous, I will be jittery. My eyes will be darting around the room because I'm not secure in my place and in myself. And you can see that right away if you're paying attention. So those are kinds of things that we kind of pick up on. And so we know when we watch, is your house really always that beautiful and that clean? Is your face real right now? Because, you know, it's hilarious because it becomes a viral moment when the filter glitches out and you see the real person for half a second. You're like, wow, the technology has gotten so good. I notice this because people will take selfies with me with their camera. And I'm like, I know I don't look like that. Everything's blurry. So for them, the beauty filter is always on. I step in, I'm like, I don't want to look like that. Just present me as is. Now, if I got a giant pimple, clone that out because that's not normal either. But normally this is what I look like.
And let's talk about AI, right? 5 years ago, were you sure AI could never touch certain types of creative work? And now today it's like being able to create things that you never thought were possible.
No. I think people have written about this. They said that the first jobs that we worried about AI taking over were manual labor, and the first jobs they took away were creative things. So early Midjourney version 1.0, kind of post-pandemic, it's making art. I'm like, wow, it's not perfect, but it's amazing. And you can already see it. And then coding, okay, this is not going to be a thing anymore. And we're seeing all of that just a few short years later. I drove here today, and my Tesla was full self-driving. And I didn't touch the wheel. I just sat back and relaxed. and it's making all kinds of decisions. I pulled in the other lot, and it recognized something and started to back out. I'm like, whoa, slow down, hold. Let me just figure this thing out. It's remarkable.
And do you think that creators should be worried about this? Because, for example, they're creating a logo, a website, they're writing content, they're creating whatever that may be. Should they be worried that the business can just go use an AI agent, use AI themselves, and they're not going to need my work anymore?
I'll ask this question back, and then I'll answer the thing. The question I ask back is, has worrying ever changed anything for the positive?
No, well, I'll rephrase that. Instead of worrying, planning. I'm planning for the future. I'm a logo designer. I'm a website designer. I have a website design agency. I have a big team. And more we're hearing from clients, oh, I just use Claude Code to create my website. I just use XYZ AI to create my website. That more and more they're hearing that from clients. That business owner has to plan for the future. He maybe, yes, staying up at night, worrying all night isn't gonna get him to his ultimate goal, but he has to plan. And so he has headcount, he has people. Where is this business gonna be in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? Maybe not worrying about AI, but figuring out a path forward for him and his family.
Okay, I find that humans are oddly complicated species in that we always define normal as what we see. So anything before is old-fashioned, anything that's beyond is like crazy. It's just, this is normal. And I'll give you the example. When I was in school, going to Art Center, people always talk about like the students who were here before were harder working. And then the kids today are like less talented and more entitled. And so this is me going to school in the 90s. And every time I go back and teach, it's like they're saying the same story every single time. Like, so are we objectively getting worse and worse and no one's getting any better? That can't be true because I'm seeing remarkable work being done. But it's just a perspective. It was better before and it's not as good now. And so things are changing. So let's just say, it's a cliche at this point, but I'll say it. The only constant is change. And as creative people, we champion ideas like innovation, being versatile, being flexible, and adapting to changes. And we can look at the past and that's really old-fashioned, and we're beyond that. But the future is like something radical and we can't accept it, which is really odd. So let's go back. Let's go back to the early 90s, pre-internet. Like I remember going to work at an ad agency and they were talking about the internet. I literally had to call my brother up on a landline and ask him, his older brother, what is the internet? It's like I feel like Morpheus asking Neo, like, what is the Matrix, Neo? So what is the internet? And he's like, it's a series of interconnected computers developed by the military. I'm like, that didn't help me. I don't even know what this thing is. And for a lot of people, AOL was the internet. And it was wild. So if we look back in history and we say, what kinds of technologies have disrupted whole industries, and we kind of can draw a pattern from that and extrapolate, okay? So the internet comes, and there's this little known company called eBay that does auctions on a personal level. That's a radical idea. Today it's just common that we're auctioning and selling things on a digital marketplace. It's wild. And there's a store called Amazon, and they sold books. Weird that you wouldn't want to buy books through the mail. This doesn't make any sense. And then moving forward, there's a company called Netflix who wants to rent you DVDs and ultimately stream them to you. All these technologies have displaced things before, but I'm just blown away that at 2 a.m. when I order something on Amazon, it's here the next day. It's more convenient for me to order from Amazon than for me to get in my car and drive to Target or whatever and buy the thing. We live in wild times. The level of efficiency that they're running at, the kind of transformation they're creating is incredible. No one is complaining about that. AI is coming. It's here. Rapid change is happening. It always happens. It's our choice. So it's like change is inevitable, but growth is an option. Change is coming. It's been here. It's been here forever. So people who use computers, what did we do before we had computers? What did we do before we had phones that could take pictures of things? We had film. Is anybody crying about film? Is anybody crying that you don't have a Garmin GPS? No one's complaining about that. So the best way that we can prepare for the future is to embrace it head first, figure out how we adapt and grow. Yes, some of your clients are going to use AI to do the writing, the design, the coding. And if you can't provide greater value than that, then I say you've designed yourself into oblivion. Obsolescence, that's what you've done. So I use AI all the time. I command even more money today for the same work that I'm doing from pre-AI, and I'm working less. So that $50,000 to $100,000 that I was telling you about used to take me weeks to do with a team of writers and strategists figuring this thing out. Now I tell the machine what I want and it does it for me. I'm still charging the same amount. Actually, I'm charging more.
So you're saying we should embrace AI, we should just figure out how to use it to elevate our skill set, let's say if you're a creative, but we don't know what the future holds. For some industries, they might get demolished by AI, or AI might take over certain creative industries, and that's the evolution.
Well, let's look at it like this. Tesla has the Cybercab, and they've already told you can own a Tesla now, and soon you'll be able to rent out like without you being there. It's the first car company, in theory, where they'll pay you back. So you can get dropped off at work, put your car to work, and it'll run all day, it'll charge itself, and it'll put $300 in your bank account. That's pretty cool. Should somebody be worried? Yes. Taxi drivers, Uber drivers, they should be worried. But now they need to make a plan, as you said, and to do something different. Maybe they need to save enough money while they still can to go and buy a fleet of cybercabs. And now they're going to be free to do gardening or whatever they want while their cabs are making money for them. So change happens all the time. We just have to ask ourselves, are you going to embrace change? Because change is happening. Today it's AI, tomorrow will be something else. I don't know what it is, but change comes at us no matter whether or not we want it.
That makes sense. Okay, over 30 years in the business of creativity, what do you understand now teaching it that you genuinely couldn't see while you were inside of it at Blind?
I've come to realize that I learn a very specific way, and if I teach people how I learn, it's totally ineffective. I may give me the topic sentence, title of the book, I'll figure it out kind of guy. Please don't hold my hand. I don't want to be micromanaged. But I'm learning that people can't learn this way. I can't just say to you, charge more, anchor, do bracketing, and then you're good to go. You literally want step by step, and that stuff kills my brain. But if I want to be an effective teacher, I have to meet people where they're at, not where I'm at. You
came up under Kyle Cooper, and this is before Imaginary Forces even existed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
What did you learn watching them that you'd never be able to teach?
I had limited exposure to Kyle. I only worked with him for, in totality, probably no more than 3 weeks, spread out across some time. Most of the times, if I was working with him, I was working in my studio, sending him work, and he'd either say that's great or not. But I will tell you something. I don't know if I've ever witnessed something I could not teach. So if I didn't see it, I can't teach it. And so there are lots of things I could not see. But there's something quite remarkable about what he did. He had just left Imaginary Forces and was trying to figure out his next move. So he didn't have a studio, didn't have a plan, but he knew I had a studio and I had people. And so we were working on a pitch for Van Helsing, a movie. And we were working on it like day and night over the weekend. It's just like a lot of work. And he brought his team there and they were working next to our team. And then he comes in and he tells me, print everything out. And back then it was like quite expensive to make these photoglossy prints, you know, and we're like printing on this giant printer. And then he's like, cut them all up. And he would lay them across the table. I had this really long table, conference room table. He'd lay them out as a sequence. And he was like moving things around. So he was doing, I don't know if it's called this, but I call it a paper edit. He didn't know how to use the machines, but he was editing it. So he's moving things and it's like, he's trying to build the sequence. And he was like, where's the gap? There's something that's missing here. So he's like, print me this thing again, but crop it like this. I said, but Kyle, the resolution's gonna be terrible. He goes, it doesn't matter, just print it out. So I print it and I could see now the camera movement, the flow. You can literally see the story unfolding from frame to frame. And then there were frames that didn't work, he just threw them away. Some of those frames we spent a day working on. literally one frame a whole day. You just threw them away. And the attachment that you have for that frame was like, would that override the narrative? Your attachment to the work you've done. Objectively, he can walk in because he has no attachment to it. He didn't do any of it. He can just throw it in the trash. It's like, we don't need that frame anymore. I'm like, oof, it hurt, but that's okay. And I could just see how he's making decisions. He came in like the Tasmanian devil, cut up things, asked for things, and then left. He's like, I'll be back by dinner time. I have to go spend time with the kids or something. Like, okay, great. So I got to witness somebody working at the highest level, and I learned a lot just by watching that process. But like, I'm the kind of guy who can learn just by watching a couple of sentences here and there, and I can walk away and extrapolate all the lessons. That's one of my gifts.
You're on a mission to teach 1 billion people how to make a living doing what they love, which is amazing. What do you actually believe is true about people that makes you think that's possible?
Oh, I know it's possible. I don't know if it has anything to do with people, but if I'm on your pod and I say something that transforms somebody's life, and you broadcast this out to 1,000 or 10,000 people, however many people, I have the opportunity. The opportunity is there. It is not as audacious as one might think. And I knew that teaching 1 million people, I was like, I think I crossed that already. It's pretty easy. Like you said, one of our videos, I haven't checked the stats, but it has over 100 million views. If someone learns something, if they're open to receive the information, that's 100 million. I just need to do that 10 more times, right? To reach 1 billion. But I also consider the secondary effect, which is if you learn something and you teach somebody else something, I'll take some credit for that. And if they teach somebody else, so you have this, it's like you plant the seed and the children of the trees and it just keeps populating, we can get there. I believe in our species' ability to learn, to be curious, and to adapt and to grow. The question is just how long you want to suffer for. I coach people. Some people do it instantly and they get results right away. Some people wait 4 years to then to tell me, I fought it for 4 years. I'm so sorry. And they're like, I see it works. I'm like, I know. I never question if it worked. I just question when you're going to see it. That's all.
What do you think is the difference between someone that takes that advice and takes action immediately versus someone that waits or maybe watches some of your content, could take value, but never actually takes any action on it?
Okay, I have 2 answers for this. A kind answer and an unkind answer. The kind answer is people have been through crap. They've been led the wrong way. They've been criticized for being impulsive and doing things, and so once burned, twice shy kind of thing. But then the not kind answer is ego and attachment. It's like our identity is so strong that if we do this thing, who are we in the process? And you have to let go of an old identity so that you can build a better one. We're not willing to let go. We over-index on confidence. And the problem is people who are a little bit lost, they think they have the answer on how to get to be found. And you typically do not. I know the things I do not know. So I just spend money to hire coaches and buy into programs. I learn and I just grow. But obviously not everybody applies that.
Do you think it's part of it is people are just lazy?
No, I don't want to say that. I think people are dealing with their own demons. Like I said, maybe you've had a traumatic experience as a child with a parent, an educator that makes you feel like if I do this and I'm wrong, I'm not worthy. And I have feelings of rejection and shame. And that's a hard thing to overcome. I don't necessarily think it's laziness. However, we're fighting impulse control once again and delayed gratification. My dad said something to me when I was in my teens. He goes, your life is long. Your time to enjoy it might be short. What we do is if we put all the work up front, we get to enjoy the rest of our lives. But some people, what they want to do is they want to do a little work, enjoy. So they never get to that place. Back to the game of money. They spend their currency, their capital, their energy foolishly. They want to go to the club and hang out with their friends and party and do spring break until they're 50. And then they're gonna do the work. But now your body doesn't cooperate. And it's much harder to do that because now you have way more responsibility than you did before.
Let's take that person that, for example, maybe they had something with a teacher, a parent, a loved one, a friend when they were growing up, And so they have that fear. They have the fear of, rejection, failure. What do you think it takes for them to make that mindset shift where, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on this. I'm actually going to go try to build something, try to do something.
A buddy of mine introduced me to this framework that I later discovered. It's part of cognitive behavioral therapy. And if you just look at a triangle and just imagine the three letters BAR, bar. One is a belief, one is action, and then the result. So you have this belief, it's fear-based, that if you do something, then you'll have bad outcomes. So the action that you take is no action. The result is nothing has changed, supporting your belief. So he goes, it's very difficult to tell people to change their belief systems because they're stuck. Ask them instead, what result do you want? So we go backwards. Instead of going bar, we go RAB. We go RAB. So what is the result that you want? Well, I'd like to make more money this year. Well, how much more money? Okay, or I want to grow my social following, or I'd like to get this kind of client. What action would a reasonable person have to take in order to get that result? Oh, they'd have to post some content. They'd have to call some clients. They'd have to just be brave enough to say this thing. So what's the belief that would be required? That I'm worth it? That failure is just a learning opportunity? Failure is the tuition for success? Okay. So what happens is if we, instead of focusing on the belief, we just focus on the action. We know what the result is. We take the action. It will change our belief. So you say, I can't charge more than $500. I said, yes, you can. And then your belief system would have to change. But I'm like, I just want you to say these words. You don't even have to believe it to be true. Say these words, take this action. And you do that, and all of a sudden the client says, yes. Then your belief system changes that I thought my ceiling was 500. Now it's 1,000. You do that enough times, you start to enter into the virtuous cycle, and you say, well, what is the theoretical ceiling for what I can charge? One of my friends, he's a much sought after public speaker. For 1 hour, 45-minute talk, what do you think he charges, Will?
I'm going to guess a high number based on what you just said.
Non-celebrity, just a regular guy. What do you think he gets paid per talk? For context, I get paid $30K.
Based on the context of what you just said, I'm going to guess $100K.
Yeah, that would be an outrageous amount of money to step on a stage and to open your mouth. $170,000. People hearing this will have a couple different reactions. 1, no one's worth that. 2, what's he doing? 3, he sold his soul to the devil. Or 4, if he can do it, I can do it. Choose whatever option works for you.
What does enough look like for you now, right? When did it stop being about money?
I've had enough for a long time.
Yeah.
Right now it's about personal development and trying to make a dent in the universe, leave the place better than I found it. This is about impacting the lives of people I'll never meet.
You've spent your life decoding other people's worth. Has that changed the way you see yourself?
I don't think so. I tell people I have an infinite money mindset. They're like, what does that mean? There's different games we're all playing, right? So people live in an abundance mindset. That's the opposite of a scarcity mindset. Scarcity mindset says there's only so many options or opportunities, and every time we take one, there's one less that we can take. And so we have to be careful about how we do this. That translates to lots of different things, like the relationship with money, the relationship with relationships and opportunities. It's all the same. You're afraid of losing things, so you're just holding on to things. Another friend of mine, Sean Cannell, says, scared money don't make money. And so if you live in the scarcity mindset, that's scared money. You don't invest in things, you don't buy in things, you don't believe in programs, so you just stay where you're at. And this is the vast majority of people. Then there's something called abundance mindset, which is like, there's more opportunities. If I lose this one, another one will appear. 2 more will appear. If this low client disappears, a better client will pop up. But I believe there's an extreme version of that, and I practice some form of radical optimism or delusion. I just believe anything that I want in my life will happen. It's just, am I willing to put in the work? And I'm a worker, and so of course everything always happens. I just have an infinite money mindset. And I was telling somebody, I love my wife. Heaven forbid something should happen between us and she wants a divorce, and it's like, okay, cool. I said, I would give her whatever she wants. It doesn't matter to me, because it's built on 2 beliefs. This is the mother of my children, somebody I love, and if I love somebody, I don't know if I can unlove somebody. I just want to put it out there. If you love somebody, it means, in my mind, I'm willing to die for you. Like if a bullet was coming or a train was about to hit you, I would sacrifice my life easily. And you do this as a parent. You test this easily. You would easily, quickly exchange your life for your child's life. You may not do that for your partner. It's a little bit different, but I put it into that same place. I love my wife. I love my children. I would, without hesitation, give up my life for them. So if she wants the money, take the money. It doesn't really matter to me because I can always make more. And to me, money is like oxygen. It's like water. It comes from everywhere. You can make it anytime you want.
Where did that radical optimism come from?
I've had it for some time. When I found my identity around design and I started testing my worth into the marketplace, it seems like everything I've ever wanted has worked out. I remember being coached by my late coach. He's like, you can't mistake your charmed life for the way people have suffered. Everything you've done is worked out, but this is not how the real world works. So he had to just ground me in that moment. I had to really think about that because I thought, whatever you want, you must get too. I just am brave enough to ask for it. And then I have the ethic to work for it. And that's the difference between me and some other people.
A talented creative who's watching this right now is about to quit. What would you say to them?
I can't want you to want it more than you want it. People ask me this all the time. I'm burnt out. I don't want to do this anymore. Help me find my passion. I'm like, you don't have the passion for it. Because the difference between you and a world champion at what you do is their passion never goes away. You've heard of the term gym rat? They just spend all their time in the gym. The people who are really good at what they do, they just keep doing it over and over again. They're shocked that they get paid for this and they're celebrated for it. That's the difference between a champion and a pretender. So find something that you love, that you will never quit, and you will just keep doing it until you're successful. There's an acronym, FOCUS. Follow one course until success. FOCUS.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on Decoded Genius.
My pleasure, Will. Thanks for having me.